Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Dainu. I know a little bit of Hebrew.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower after Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass. We're gonna die.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Dear sir, I must once again remind you, my first name is not Dick, nor is my last name Face.
Each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, we'll cover one. Choose one for yourself. Please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing tonight?
This week, we were excited to go back to the family estate, Gene, and determine whether they're real ghosts, real supernatural events, or a hoax, Scooby-Doo style, when Sidney commissioned the 1988 fantasy comedy, High Spirits.
And Sidney, who has impeccable taste in Johnny Depp movies, wrote in and said, the glory days of comedy horror movies. Likely to blame for my morbid sense of humor and questionable taste in men. While this 1988 film, directed by Neil Jordan, is certainly not the best of the genre, I'd argue it's an underrated hidden gem with a surprisingly impressive cast. This movie stars an ethereal Daryl Hannah, a goofy yet endearing Steve Guttenberg, a sexy, albeit squishy, young Liam Neeson, and a chronically suicidal Peter O'Toole. Add to that Beverly D'Angelo's perfect early Karen impression and Jennifer Tilly seducing a priest, and you have the quintessential 1980s mix of dark comedy, sexual tension, and earnestness. Growing up on Beetlejuice, Elvira, Monster Squad, Lost Boys, and many other horror-adjacent films, this was right up my alley, though I'm not sure the ghost sex themes were appropriate when I first saw it at 7 years old. Rewatching as an adult, I'll admit the movie drags a bit. Some of the acting is silly, and the effects are rough in spots, not to mention that the characters clearly haven't learned about consent. Despite this, I still found myself rooting for the castle dwellers, both living and dead, and loving to hate Beverly D'Angelo's Valium-fueled bitterness. Realistically, this is probably a 2.5 to 3 wipe film, but hopefully it gives y'all a fun break. Thanks for the laughs, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the skelping, and that comes from Sydney in Texas. Sydney, I love that you are a fan of Beetlejuice, Elvira, Monster Squad, Lost Boys. These are movies that are near and dear to me, even though they might not hold up in the Shat pantheon. At the time that I saw them, I love them, and there will always be some nostalgia there. And you're right, in this late 80s, kind of early 90s era, there was a ton of this horror-adjacent stuff, which happened to coincide with kind of the glory days of the goth scene. This was a great time to be alive. Big D talked about what a great time it was to be a kid when Superman 2 came out. For me, being 8 years old in the late 80s and being a teenager in the mid 90s, these are the glory days.
There were quite a few of these supernatural, weirdly romantic comedies. You've mentioned a few Beetlejuice, but there was also, it reminded me a lot of Death Becomes Her. Mm-hmm. Or The Frighteners, or even a little like less odd than Nothing But Trouble. There was a lot of these weird films. I think it's something we're missing today. It's either a sequel or some kind of giant summer blockbuster that gets made. These movies these oddball comedies would never see the light of day today.
I think that's why people were so excited about Sinners. Like Sinners has been huge. It's on everyone's lips right now. Everybody's raving about Sinners. I have not seen it yet, but people wanted an original story. They wanted a live action movie that was not a sequel to something or a remake of something. And maybe America's getting an appetite for that again. I certainly hope so. High Spirits is a 1988 supernatural comedy written and directed by Neil Jordan and starring Steve Guttenberg, Daryl Hannah, Beverly D'Angelo, Liam Neeson, and Peter O'Toole. It is an Irish, British, and American co-production. Set in a remote Irish castle called Dromore Castle, County Limerick, High Spirits is a topsy-turvy comedy with thematic leanings toward Ireland's rich folklore regarding ghosts and spirits, where the castle starts to come to life with the help of such denizens. Big D, I'm not sure what happened here, but High Spirits has like a half dozen cinematic superstars in it. I mean, this is some top billing, some really prime talent, and it never got a single watch in our household. And with my family as a kid, who was in the movie was the most important part. Charles Bronson movie, we're going to see it. You know, Steven Seagal movie, we're going to see it. Certainly if I had a Steve Guttenberg and a Daryl Hannah in the movie, we're going to see it. But this never got a single watch in our household. It also tanked at the box office. It brought in less than half of its $17 million budget. And I don't think I would have liked this as a kid, but I'm surprised someone like my mom or my cousin Pej didn't love it.
So I think this movie suffers from a weird lack of true identity. You look at the poster, it looks like it could be some, supernatural, like fun ghost experience, like Ghostbusters, but then there's romance. And even though, what we got at the end wasn't very successful, I think there are enough pieces that hint at a better movie. But in 1988, as a 15-year-old boy growing up, I never would have thought, ooh, High Spirits? Yeah, this looks good. A little weird, but maybe I'll go check it out. It's got ghosts, flying people. Daryl Hannah had been naked a couple years earlier in Splash. Steve Guttenberg, I liked him in Police Academy. But anytime romance was added to a movie, like a description or a trailer, I know I sound like the typical stupid guy, but I was never excited to be like, yeah, I want to go see that romantic comedy. Like Roxanne with Steve Martin. Oh, I want to see that. That'd be great. I never thought that. So this film never would have been on my list of movies to see.
I noticed you used the past tense there. Right now, if a romantic comedy or just a straight up romantic drama comes out, are you rushing to see it?
No, but I'd be more open to it. I'm definitely more willing to give it a chance.
Is anyone in your household that type of viewer?
Oh, Vanessa, 1,000%.
Really? Okay.
Yes, Vanessa is. When I see a trailer, I can immediately say this is a Vanessa movie. She likes a little higher level of the Hallmark movies. If there's a girl coming back to town and maybe the ugly duckling guy who's now started a business, or some combination of, maybe small town girl goes to the big city, and maybe a holiday film where, Santa's the neighbor, and it's any of that shit Vanessa loves.
So Love Actually is like her perfect movie.
I'll have to ask her what a perfect movie is, but her attention, she forgets them. She'll see a movie and like about 6 months later, she'll go to it and be like, I think I've seen this, but I don't know. And she'll watch it again. And, ignorance is bliss. As long as it's a happy story about love, even at the end, if it's love unearned or love undeserved, she's all about the process.
I think you just described High Spirits. Let's hit the trailer.
These brave Americans have traveled all the way to Europe to visit a genuine haunted castle.
Castle Plunkett! We can promise you ghouls of all descriptions.
There are no bloomin' ghosts here.
But there will be. We'll invent them.
Their host doesn't want them disappointed.
This is the most pitiful supernatural sham that I've ever encountered.
We'll get better, I do assure you.
But when you fake a haunting, the real ghosts get mad.
We're going to give those Americans exactly what they came here for.
What is going on here?
Now they're out of the closet.
You're real. You're a real ghost.
Love is in the air. And Jack's just dreamy enough to imagine life with a ghost.
Jack, is that you? There's a man in my bathtub!
That's Martin.
Who's Martin?
He's a ghost. He
Jack.
murders his wife every night. Other than that, I think he's pretty harmless.
Daryl Hannah.
If you loved me, the miracle could happen.
Peter O'Toole.
Sorry, Peter.
Beverly D'Angelo.
You threw me over for this? I mean, I knew you liked passive women, Jack, but she's half dead. I hope she has a great personality because this hurts.
Steve Guttenberg.
I know looks aren't everything.
I'm in here, Jack.
It's just that they can help so much when you...
There's nothing like a vacation to give your spirits a lift. High spirits.
Cash-strapped Peter Plunkett has converted his ancestral castle into a bed and breakfast 10 years after his father's death. Irish-American businessman Jim Brogan wants to move the castle to Malibu unless Plunkett settles his debts within 3 weeks' time. So Plunkett attempts to turn the castle into a tourist attraction. Inspired by his mother Lavinia's stories about the castle being haunted, Plunkett and his staff start creating costumes and effects for their first group of American guests. Big D, immediately this movie weaseled its way into my heart. It was unfair. They brought out Peter O'Toole, and I have always wanted a sequel to With Nail and I. You know how much I love that movie, and I think we just found it. The whole time I was watching Peter O'Toole absolutely cook in this movie as Peter Plunkett, I kept thinking, this could be Grown Up With Nail. I know you were very sad when you heard that With Nail committed suicide. Maybe he didn't commit suicide. Maybe that weekend in the countryside with Monty inspired With Nail to return to his ancestral roots and grow old and open a hotel in a castle. And Peter O'Toole, if you're not familiar with his work, if you're not of that older generation, he is just such a singular force. The way he moves, the way he acts, he is lithe and erudite, and he is a wonderful drunk. Probably one of my top 5 on-screen drunks. Did you catch that sound he made when he drank his father's brew? He like threw his head back and did like a hey. So good.
It is good. And Peter O'Toole, he is Lawrence of Arabia. This is like getting Sir Alec Guinness in Star Wars. He reads every line like it's Shakespeare. Whether he's drunk and passing out, he's conning American tourists. He is a shady scam artist. He has to do this to keep the house, to get the mortgage paid. But he does it with such an elegance that I wanted him to get away with it. He delivers lines like, "Ladies and gentlemen, children, you appear to be a trifle moist." It is the peak British charm. And honestly, I would watch him say anything. This role is beneath him, but the lines are ridiculous and he owns them. After that whole thing, like "My first name is not Dick," and we hear him on the phone conversation, he says, and we only hear his side of it, and he says, "No, I was not given a middle name, but I'm assured if I had, my mother would not have chosen Shit for Brains Peckerhead." Then we hear somebody talking on the phone. It's obviously Mr. Brogan, seeing the father. And he says, "Well, then clearly you know a side of my mother that I've been happily sheltered from. Nevertheless, I marvel at your colorful, creative, ever so American colloquialism, which flows so trippingly from your razor-like tongue." So this is so fucking good and so funny. Only this man could deliver it.
And unfortunately, from this point, the movie sort of slips into this slapstick. And I understand this is high spirits. You look at the movie poster, there's a bed flying, there's a ghost. Fake hauntings are supposed to be the comedic engine here, right? But I think it's worth noting that Peter Plunkett didn't need to go this hard. I've been to several ghost hunts, including the Hannah House in Indianapolis, Mansfield Reformatory in Ohio, famously the set of Shawshank Redemption, and even traveled to Edinburgh to see the Edinburgh Vaults. And on those tours, you're never promised ghosts. You don't expect to see a spirit. You go, you spend your money, you're on a trip, you set up your gear, you wander the grounds, generally beautiful or spooky or just incredible grounds. And you get excited if you see a weird flash of light, or maybe you listen to your recordings and there was like a weird whisper. All Plunkett needed to do here was build the castle as a haunted place, order a few pizzas, and sit back while the cash rolled in. I don't know why they went this hard.
Well, I think he was pressed for time. He had 3 weeks. Somehow he got a busload of people there. But we'll get into later that the film we got is a bit of a bastardization of the original dark intent. And I get the vibe that this first piece, the fake hauntings, was like an add-on. It seemed like it didn't match the tone of the rest of the film. Because you're right. You didn't need to go this full-bore haunted honeymoon, flying Gilda Radner outside on a rope outside the window. Because I would go to this place, Gene. I get jealous of thinking you like going around Shawshank and trying to hear voices or things bumping around in the dark. I don't need ghosts. I don't believe in them. But Castle Plunkett, if this was a real place, I would go. I would want you to go. I would want to get King B to go. It seems like the perfect kind of place. You'd go as a group. You'd have some drinks, you'd soak it in, you'd watch some kind of musical number, and then you'd each stay in a different haunted room. The staff would be over the top and eccentric. There would be a fake ghost tour. It would be a bizarre Irish version of summer camp for grown-ups. And this would be perfect. A mildewed, shitty bed, no complaints. I don't want a luxurious I don't want a luxury resort. I want to go here with Eugene, a bunch of our weird friends, and just go get shit-faced and hear ghost stories.
It'd be amazing. When Sarah and I celebrated our anniversary in Belgium and the Netherlands, we stayed in a canal-side cottage, a fourth-floor attic of a building, a room in the side of a church wall, and a red light district sleep pod. And I live for this shit. Like, that's why I'm traveling. I don't want my comfortable bed at home. I don't want my TV and my couch. My family does not get it. Recently, we went to Orange County for a baby shower. My mom is like, yeah, we picked the AC hotel right across from John Wayne Airport. It's in a strip mall. There is nowhere to walk from there except for maybe a Starbucks. Parking is paid. The bar in the hotel lobby is expensive. The room amenities never make sense. This is one of the things that I always complain about at a hotel. The whole point is hospitality. I should go in there and feel like I can kick my shoes off and relax. There should be, put a couple free beers in the fridge. Put some water in the fridge. Give me more than one coffee per person that's staying there. Like, that's what I'm looking for, right? If you're not going to give me those amenities, at least make the place interesting. Give it a little character, something. But people who want to go to these sanitized hotels and resorts, it's beyond me.
Well, it's like, gee, when I came to visit you and Sarah for
Fuck you. Rocky Horror Picture
Rocky
Show?
Horror Picture Show. You put me up in, what was the place called? It was like the
Sure
All Right.
Stay.
Yeah, it was called the Sure Stay. It was the place that you could easily probably find a prostitute walking around or a dead body.
Or both.
Yeah, sure. Let's stay there. You wouldn't want to cross the 4-lane highway right adjacent to it to go get food at the gas station because you might get killed. But it definitely left me with a lasting memory, Gene, that I will cherish to the day I go to the beyond.
Well, the next time you come back, I got a special surprise for you. We, and by we, I mean Sarah, put in a Murphy bed.
Ooh.
Hijinks will ensue. After parapsychologist Malcolm Clay threatens to expose Plunkett's ghost fraud, guest Jack Crawford discovers his wife Sharon is using their second honeymoon to check out the castle for her father, Jim Brogan. Later, Jack meets two real ghosts, Plunkett's 6 times great-grandcousin Mary and her newly wedded husband, Martin Brogan. Every night, Martin stabs Mary to death in a constant loop that has been going on for nearly 200 years. When the ghosts reenact the scene again, Jack interrupts the loop by getting in the way, and Mary falls in love with him.
So, Gene, besides haunted family estates, another common theme we've been going through in the last couple of weeks is surprise hot stud actors from the 80s and 90s. We just marveled at the gaze and the hypnotic stare of Jeff Goldblum and his body. Hot body. We compared him to who, Gene?
Steve Guttenberg.
Steve Guttenberg, exactly. So we get Steve Guttenberg here, but he's not playing the hot police cadet. He is the frumpy, maybe insecure husband, and they dress him in these comically large clothes to hide his body. And Beverly D'Angelo is the early Karen. She is not very happy, but we know under the clothes, he's got those ripped abs we see later, the chiseled chest. He's got that stare. He is an 80s heartthrob. And I have a hard time just believing that no matter how sad the marriage is, no matter how unhappy or how entitled Sharon is as a wife, that she gets so little arousal from her husband. I'm like, are you kidding me? Guttenberg is a hot husband. Take a couple Valium, bang it out. He's a good-looking dude. And then it clicked. Maybe this is the male equivalent of Jamie Lee Curtis as the frumpy housewife in True Lies. We have to believe and pretend that we can somehow see these are like the everyday people, but when the clothes come off, wow. But there's a limit to suspension of disbelief. Steve Guttenberg is a hot dude. I
think the idea is that Sharon doesn't want a doormat, right? She doesn't want this kind guy because you watch him in this movie and he's a beta gazing with wonder at all these things. He even, after all of these ghosts and ghouls failed to do their jobs, the fake ones, right? He's remembering, oh yeah, you were the banshee. You were the headless guy. And, he's really into it. I think that he's got that innocence, that big heart, and that turns her off. She wants a sadist. She wants Martin Brogan, who might be like her great-great-great-grandfather. Mm-hmm. But getting back to Guttenberg, I love drinking and I really love being drunk. Seth just sent me a photo the other day of the daiquiris that we had before we got on the swamp tour. I said, yeah, I fucking love alcohol. I'm not an alcoholic, but I love alcohol and I love getting my friends drunk. And then when I get drunk, I like to go on walks. I like to open up to people. I like to notice things I've never noticed before. I like to follow little empty bottles of Pinot Grigio until I find Big D. I like to make myself laugh. And Steve Guttenberg, your favorite underappreciated 80s hunk, he did an entire 5-minute bit in this film about being drunk. Generally a cliche, but it had me smiling ear to ear. We see him stumbling down this hallway into a haunted room and he witnesses a murder. Martin is murdering Mary and he's just doing commentary on the whole situation. He's like, oh, it looks real, a little rough, but real. Putting Guttenberg and Daryl Hannah and Liam Neeson in a ghost murder scene where one of the guys is drunk. It is brilliant chemistry. This is where the movie is really at its best. I loved it.
See, but for me, I'm picturing Guttenberg. He's normally confident. He's a bit cocky in all of his roles, whether it's Mahoney. He's never insecure. And for me, something about this was off. He's not playing that charming goofball. Instead, I felt like this was Billy Crystal. Or this was Jerry Seinfeld and slipping into that exaggerated, stereotypical, neurotic Jewish guy persona where he's muttering to himself and like, oh, what am I doing here? There's ghosts in here. Oh, what's the deal with ghosts in haunted mansions? Or Billy Crystal, and it was nasally, it was whiny, and it was completely foreign to him. We've never seen this in 3 Men and a Baby or Police Academy. And now it's not offensive necessarily, but it's definitely different. It doesn't match with him. It doesn't fit with the romantic lead he's supposed to be. And I'd love to know like where this direction came from. Was it some shtick where they're like, hey, why don't you try to be more like Billy Crystal or Seinfeld? It didn't feel like it was him.
Bryan Cranston faced a lot of resistance when he tried to go from the dad and Malcolm in the Middle to Walt White in Breaking Bad. And I think that's what Guttenberg was trying to do here. He was trying to go from cocky police cadet to neurotic Jewish guy.
Well, we are missing a key part. I don't know what year it is. Cocoon. I know he's in Cocoon. So he's a young Jewish guy, I think, in South Florida. He could be a neurotic Jew in that. I don't know. There's a part here, Gene, where we get into the supernatural and the living and the dead and who family members are still around. And Jack finds himself in a weird, like, moral dilemma. Now, normally it's like the trolley car. You have to choose like one person's life or like 5 people's life, or doing the right thing or the wrong thing that will hurt people. Here, he finds out that Mary is running, you mentioned, in this perpetual daily loop for 200 years. She's been the murdered bride for 200 years. Every day she starts off at the tree trying to wish she wanted to get married, and she know her day is going to end where she's murdered on the floor. It restarts. It's brutal, and it's sad. But she kind of guilts Jack. She says, Jack, this is the first time in 200 years that I have not ended my night being murdered. The idea I'm getting is she's saying, please don't leave me, because without you disrupting this, it will continue. What are Jack's obligations in a spiritual realm? He can't spend the rest of his life interrupting this murder every night, right? What's a reasonable expectation, Gene, that you would do to bring peace to this tortured soul?
I don't think he has to interrupt it every night. I think that he just has to be there to keep her conscious and out of the loop. That's at least how I read it. But the part that bothered me was that he was torn at all, because Sharon's awful. And you see the scene where this beautiful ghost, Mary, is telling him that he broke this curse and is saving her from these 2 centuries of agony. Like, he can break that cycle. Even if you wanted to stay with your wife, even if you valued your relationship, I would at least have to explain, let's say to Sarah, listen, this is what happened. Okay. You might think I'm crazy, but this is what happened. And we got to figure this out for this ghost. And if the person you're married to does not have that kind of capacity for compassion, I know I'm taking this way too seriously, but if they don't, I think that moment is the end of your marriage. If you're like, if you don't care that much about another person, where you let them suffer just because you have to go, I don't know, somewhere arbitrarily, you can't turn your back on a soul that's condemned to 200 years of torture. Also, nobody honks at me.
And I think this is like Phil Connor in Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Even though he knows when the day resets, the people didn't experience the good deeds that he did, or the way he improved their lives. He does it anyway because it's the right thing to do. But my question now, thinking of, is, we know there are other spirits in the house who have amazing powers.
Yeah.
None of them come to her defense. What happens every night? Do they just go, oh, he's going to kill her again, cover your ears, let's ignore this? She's screaming out for help and the other spirits are ignoring her.
Well, to be fair, this is a Brogan-owned castle, and he is a Brogan. So, just trying not to piss off the landlord. Cowards.
They're enabling this like spirit, this spirit on spirit domestic violence.
Maybe they're ghoulish and they enjoy it.
Oh, they're listening at the door.
Well, having learned about the current situation with the castle, all the ghosts decide to help by staging a full-scale paranormal event. They strip the Americans half naked, sabotage their means of transport, knock the phone lines out, and manifest a storm to force the Americans back into the castle. Jack is spirited away and brought to Mary by her talking horse. While Jack learns the story behind Mary's murder, Sharon develops the hots for Martin's ghost. Lavinia decides to help Jack by handing him a book, which reveals that true love can bring the dead back to life on Halloween night, so long as the lovers do not have sex. Big D, we are now halfway through the movie, and finally, I'm starting to enjoy it in earnest. Other than Peter O'Toole, I really didn't care for the first half of this movie. It was predictable, slapstick, with none of the charm of Disney's Haunted Mansion. And that felt like a real waste of immense talent in this cast. But once the ghost came out to play, things got really, really fun. Everyone's getting stripped down to lingerie. Martin, Liam Neeson, he's prowling the grounds, being a hornball. There's heavy drinking by everyone. Things really pick up.
I mean, up to this point, High Spirits, it's like a fairly family-friendly, like, spirit. Like, you look at the poster, like you said, the bed spinning and ghosts. I could have brought my family. It seems like this would be it's a PG-13 film. And then all of a sudden, the point where Gene Lyons likes the movie is where they flip the switch and it becomes spooky and saucy. Then the ghost blast comes out and Jack goes flying in the wind and it rips apart like it's this Irish hurricane. And it rips apart the hotel taxi / bus. And you say lingerie, Gene. It strips them down into almost nothing. The priest is wearing his collar and a little piece of the vest. This isn't lingerie. Then she turns around, Sharon, and says, so obviously all the snakes weren't driven out of Ireland. And she looks down in this weird tonal shift where she's doing like a giant penis innuendo joke about the priest. And then Brother Tony dives into the pool to save Miranda. And there's a nip slip. I went back because I'm dedicated to the podcast and accuracy and breaking ground. There is a clear nip slip in the pool. And this is a weird change. Honestly, it's kind of shocking that the tone went this far and this hard to the horny side for PG-13. Now, I didn't expect nudity, but I wanted goofy ghosts and comedy, and it was pretty tame. But I'm getting nipples and a lot of skin. And I know you were probably loving this, Gene.
I mean, there was definitely lingerie on Beverly D'Angelo and Jennifer Tilly. What'd you think?
Oh, I think it looked hot. But do people normally wear like those garters? Is that a normal thing you would wear in your daily life?
I think it's like an 80s Ireland thing.
Like
no, they're on vacation. You wear lingerie on vacation.
I didn't even notice. Okay, maybe this is a good sign I wasn't paying attention. Did the kids get stripped down, Gene? Were they nude too?
Were they in this? Yeah, I guess
they had to.
I didn't notice. No, I don't know.
I think
they wouldn't have
says
stripped the kids. This isn't Superman 2.
Anything is possible. So, Gene, later on, we are introduced to the term of skelping. So, skelping is an interaction between a spirit and a human body. It's supposed to be dangerous. Like, it's almost as if they pass through each other. And the result is, I would equate it to having sex on ecstasy. There's a euphoric feeling. I don't know if Jack climaxes, but it looks pretty close to it. And then the spirit of Mary, she's so tuckered out by it. She vanishes into the ether. She disappears. It takes so much energy out of her. And I'm wondering here, they don't make physical contact. There is obviously some kind of an emotional or some kind of euphoric feeling or release here. Would this be considered cheating, Gene? Like, say you were walking through the castle and one of these spirits came by and scalped you in passing. Is that cheating? Is that physical infidelity, or is that something else entirely?
I mean, if you gave consent to the ghost, yeah, it's cheating. If they just, otherwise it's rape, I guess, scalp rape. But you're literally inside each other. I think it counts as cheating. Yeah. I want to get something else you talked about. People have sex on MDMA.
I don't know. I'm only imagining.
Oh, I thought you were speaking from experience.
No, ecstasy, yes, but MDMA. I'm imagining. Why would you take Molly or any of the current drugs unless you were going to get busy on it? I imagine you would.
Like when I would get high on ecstasy, I was like a 5-year-old. I wanted to
you wouldn't feel like textures.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But not sexual.
You wouldn't touch the female body, Gene. It's so beautiful.
I would touch it like a kindergarten kid wanting a hug.
Right. But that would lead to sex.
I don't know what you were doing in kindergarten.
Write in, please. I can't be the only one thinking that ecstasy would have made the textures of the female body even just pleasurable, like a shag carpet.
So let's rewind here. You have taken MDMA?
Isn't it? That's I'm a fucking old man.
Yeah.
Yes. Back in the day, yes.
And did you have sex on it?
Yes.
Okay, so you're able to get erect and have the sex and all that stuff.
Again, maybe I don't know what the quality of it was. It may. No,
I didn't say it was great. I'm just saying, but you're able to do it.
Something, yeah, something.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah, I would want to go swimming. I like to get showers.
Maybe just
barfing was fun.
The whole thing, I think, would be just like petting. Would be just laying there and just exploring.
But not sex.
Yeah, but either way,
certainly not scalping.
No, you would imagine though. I think we should, if we were chemists.
Yeah,
and you talked about Walter White. Yeah. If we could come up with a drug, and we would, because you have all these new terms for drugs all the time. What if we came out with scalp, And it was like a euphoric sexual experience.
It just feels like Daryl Hannah is walking through you.
Oh, the kids would be like, "Oh man, you getting scalped? Yeah, I got some scalp. You want to go back to my house and scalp?" And then only the people who have seen this movie would be like, "Oh, fuck yeah, I know exactly what they're talking about."
It'd be really hard for dealers to sell. They're like, I got some scalp here. They're like, yeah, remember High Spirits? Like, no, don't know what that is. On Halloween night, Plunkett, his staff, and the guests suffer more hauntings. Jack and Mary have sex, and because of this, Mary becomes a living but rotting old corpse. Sharon professes her true love to Martin, whereas Jack gives Mary a kiss of true love, which restores her original youth. As dawn approaches, Sharon aims to embrace Martin in her arms, but she falls out of the window and dies. Mary disappears. However, while rushing to what appears to be his wife's corpse, Jack finds out it is actually Mary in Sharon's clothes, having been resurrected. Okay. Jack and Mary kiss again, and Sharon, who is now a ghost in Mary's wedding dress, kisses Martin before they vanish. One thing that really bothered me about this movie was this romance between Jack and Mary. I don't think he really loves her. When she starts to decay into a 200-year-old ghoul, Jack runs away from her, even to the point where this poor woman is crumbling and crawling down the stairs and begging for his help. I felt bad for her, and I wasn't even in love with her. He finally begrudgingly kisses her. He's like borderline gagging. And the camera's going around the back of her head. It's all bald with like weird wrinkles and shit. And I thought something terrifying was going to happen. Yes. Instead, she rewards him by turning back into a young Daryl Hannah. And I'm thinking, what is the message here?
Okay, I want to wind this back a little bit here. So Vanessa and I, when we watch TV, and she watches a lot of reality shows. Her and I watch The Amazing Race. We watch Survivor. We both cringe when people say, "I love you," when they've known each other for like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Jack met Mary when he was blackout drunk. The next day, he saw again an apparition. He may have been on medication. Who knows what it was? And he's saying, "I love you. I love you." Dude, you don't love anybody in your state of mind. You're unhappy in your marriage. You're on vacation. You were just about to kill yourself. And now all of a sudden, you know what true love. This isn't Beauty and the Beast. You're not going to fucking kiss her before the rose fucking last petal drops and there'll be some miraculous transformation. This was a test. It was a test to see if you truly loved her. If the movie had stuck to the rules, right? Yeah. That we were taught, if Jack like immediately like cringed and pulled away, he should have withered away and died because he truly did not love her. Mary, she should have then come back to life, and Jack should have been the asshole who then decayed and took her place.
Yeah.
If this was a darker movie, which I think we could have gotten, that would have been the rules because none of this screams true love. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I love you, but you're decrepit and you used to look different." And Gene, I also, when we saw the back of her head, I'm thinking Scrooged, where we were going to get like the golf ball popping out of the back of her head. It was a very, very foreboding scene. You thought something was going to happen here. But this is another part of this disjointed plot, Gene. Early on, let's go back. They're having trouble paying for the mortgage. So the idea is, let's draw people in with a fake haunting story, right? That's the idea of the first half of the film. Here, we get to meet the spirits that actually live in the house. There's an old woman. She's married to a ghost, right? A legitimate ghost. So they clearly know the situation that's going on because that's her son who's trying to work out the mortgage. Why would the ghost then choose to just lay back and be like, "Oh, okay, we're going to lose the house. We're going to go to Malibu, whatever." Why not? Why did you wait until that very last moment to come out and show your powers? When the house is in, when the family mansion is in trouble, Why did you not come out and help Peter O'Toole? Why did you start only at the end when it was so far? Like, you only had 2 weeks. You could have been doing this years ago. Why did they choose to stay in hiding and let him come up with this fake story of a haunting?
It's important to note also that these ghosts are younger than Mary. Mary's like way older than most of these ghosts. These are like great aunts. This is Peter's dad. The only way I could explain the situation is that they're pretty happy ghosts. Like, they were just enjoying being at rest in their dank old castle. And we've seen that skelping, as you mentioned, Big D, wears a ghost out. I imagine that flying around and knocking rocks around and spooking around the woods, that's got to really get them tired. And so they prefer to just hang back, chill out until they realize that something's very wrong.
But they're fucking assholes. Like, poor Peter.
Well, they're ghosts, yeah.
Peter says, Dad, you didn't even think to come talk to me? I've missed you. I could have used your help as my father. You lost your father many years ago.
Yes.
Would you be pissed off if you found out that the spirit of your father had been living in your house the whole time, but never came and talked to you and said, Gene, I think it's time I talk to you about being a man? Would you be fucking pissed at him?
Only because he'd be aware of my chronic masturbation.
Son, your technique is quite impressive.
I can almost guarantee, having never met him even, that my father never once masturbated.
Bullshit.
That is walking sex.
Bullshit. But you'd be pissed if he didn't talk to you, right?
No. That's his business.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Who's going to talk to me?
Like, all the times, Gene, when you were young and you were alone and you were upset and you were in your room, like, crying and having difficult times at school, and he was just sitting there watching.
Yeah, I want an Iranian man in his 50s to come over and start talking to me.
That would calm me down, Gene.
Yeah, it's terrify the shit out of me.
It would.
God, I'm just there painting my nails, listening to The Cure in my suede dress. Hey, Dad.
That's probably why he never said a word.
That's why.
He was probably like, oh, I just need to stay silent.
What are you doing?
Oh, he's telling his other spirit friends, like, I don't know. He's painting his nails. He's listening to sad men cry.
I like that my dad is now Nosferatu. It's nice. Despite the shocking experience, the guests have actually enjoyed their stay at the hotel, and Clay promises to recommend Plunkett's castle as the most haunted castle in the world, saving Plunkett and his staff from financial ruin. Brother Tony resigns from the priesthood to pursue a romantic relationship with Miranda, and Jack decides to stay and dances with Mary before proposing to her. Martin and Sharon's ghosts appear, and the two couples dance together.
So, people who have not seen this film, there are two separate films that are spliced together, and you can feel them. When we get to the end here, there is a barroom stage show that turns into a full-blown sea battle, which is one of the wildest tonal shifts in High Spirits. 1 minute we're watching the guests, they're downstairs, they're in the bar, in the lobby of the hotel castle or whatever it is. The next minute, the ghosts have possessed this stage show where, how do you describe it, Gene? It's like where you have those different layers of like screen props where the closest to you is the waves, then behind it is a ship, and then a mermaid to like show you depth. But it is a staggered like stage presentation. It goes from a normal mermaid to full-blown Moby Dick meets 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea fever dream. The mermaid, she vanishes. A live boy who is a guest of the hotel, he is dragged into the set by a giant squid. There's an old ship that comes crashing through to save him. It is visually impressive. It is creepy. It is dark. It is Beetlejuice-esque. It feels like it's in a different movie, an entirely different movie. In this moment, it's so ambitious and so out of place that it feels like it's come from another movie. I'm thinking like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, when the car spins around and you see the devil, or some of the moments in Pee-wee's Big Adventure or Beetlejuice. It is so bizarre, so dark, and it got me wondering, what else are we missing in this fantasy film that we instead got this hodgepodge of romantic comedies.
I think what you might be referring to is mechanical theater. You mentioned Beetlejuice. This is on par with the infamous dinner scene in Beetlejuice. It is that big in scope. I fully expected a sandworm to pop out of nowhere. It is imaginative. It is huge. It is a lot of fun. And I also got the sense that people were really having a good time making this scene. It seemed like the cast was gelling in a different way. Possibly everyone was wasted, even the kids. But it's wild. I mean, there is a child who gets turned from a boy into a wooden prop that is being pulled down by a sea monster, a kraken, and then he's ejected back again as a child. It's pretty fucking cool.
And then Peter O'Toole wanders into the scene. Everyone's wet from the sea monster, and he says, "Oh, is it raining? Is the ceiling dripping?" It is so fucking bizarre and so fantastic. And this movie, I've hinted that there was some problems behind the scenes. And the director, Neil Jordan, he intended for the final film to be dark and something more like we mentioned, Beetlejuice or something like Death Becomes Her. They actually locked him out of the editing room. The producers took over. They reshaped the film into something that was more family-friendly, slapstick. Instead of the original dark character-driven film, totally different. And there's rumors that the original director's cut exists and was released in Japan. I want to see this, Gene. Please, if anyone out there are listeners, you guys have found some wonderful things. Find me the original Japanese dark version of this film, because knowing it exists helps me explain the plot of this film and the disjointed nature and just it doesn't fit together. There's something missing. We need to work together as a community. Shat Nation, please help me find the Japanese original director's cut or something that makes this make sense.
Knowing that Neil Jordan was locked out of editing makes a ton of sense, because I kept asking myself, why would they hire this much acting firepower only to make a movie with a bunch of gags? And I understand that the studio at the time, they didn't necessarily know that a young Jennifer Tilly or Liam Neeson or Peter Gallagher would go on to be these big stars, but they certainly had known quality and spent money to get Peter O'Toole, Bev D'Angelo, Daryl Hannah, and Steve Guttenberg. There must have been an intent here to make something of substance, to rely less on flying beds and suits of armor on roller skates. I want to see that Japanese tape.
And I think, Gene, even more than the studio hiring this talent, the film that must have been pitched to this talent to get them on board had to have been something special. That's the way I think of it. How do you get Peter O'Toole to buy into this project? It wasn't this film. It wasn't what we got.
Hear me out. Remake of High Spirits, directed by Wes Anderson.
That might be the first Wes Anderson film I would want to see.
Dick. Royal Tenenbaums is the greatest movie of all time. Now's the time in the podcast we give our Shat score for High Spirits. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective bums. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when you got the best bahookies from here to Ballandary. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's when your wife is as cold as a penguin on an iceberg. I'll go first. Big D. Overall, High Spirits is a subpar movie with some really standout performances from an all-star cast. If the first half were anywhere as strong as the second, we might have had something here above 2. But comparing this to Beetlejuice, which was released in the same year, by the way, this feels much older, much less sophisticated, much less exciting, much less charming. You see just how short it falls. And I guess I'm somewhat in agreement with Sydney because I'm coming in at 3 wipes.
I think you're right on. I think 3 wipes is right. I think it's creative, it's imaginative, it's playful. The characters, there's moments, there's flashes of genius. The camp of the first half shifts into like some dark, legitimate horror of like the fish with the bloody hand coming out and the entire Kraken scene. Fuck, people, please help me find the Japanese director's cut. Please. I know that is like a 1 wipe. But for this, sadly, Gene, it is a 3 wipe.
And that makes it 3 wipes across the board, including the commissioner.
So, Gene, with a unanimous 3 judge score of 3 wipes, the shit seems to work out, Gene. This film is now tied with Police Academy, Uncle Buck, Smokey and the Bandit, Red Dawn, Mortal Kombat, Grease 2, Over the Top, Revenge of the Nerds, and Christmas Vacation.
I feel like that's pretty generous to High Spirits. Those are some big name movies.
But are they any better?
Again, it's been so long since we watched some of those that I feel like the nostalgia creeps back, you know?
Yeah.
I know I was very hard on Revenge of the Nerds. I'm like, it's got to be better than that, right? But maybe not.
You were equally hard on Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
And Red Dawn. And Police, Uncle Buck, you gave a 4.
I did?
That's shocking.
Oh, that's right. Well, yeah, because the premise-wise and John Candy are fine, but the movie overall is kind of ass.
Kind of ass.
Yeah. The message was...
but again, once we see the Japanese, the true director's cut,
yes, that's what we're waiting for.
All the pieces will fall into place, Gene. This is where we need the final piece of the puzzle, and we will solve this.
Big D, before we close out this episode, we have some housekeeping to do. And we don't normally do this, but we have an email from a commissioner of a recent film that didn't get their letter in for that film, but I think that we owe it to Chris to read his letter from Superman 2. And he wrote in and said, shit, I'm certainly late with this email. First, congrats to Gene and Sarah. Sounds like you both will be amazing parents. Gene, I'm sure you'll get lots of advice about parenting, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in. For the first 3 to 4 months of your child's life, you are only a cleaner and transportation provider. Bed to boob / bottle. The best way you'll be able to help is to plan for and anticipate anything and everything that Sarah might need. Now, onto the movie. When I commissioned Superman 2 over a year ago, I thought I'll have plenty of time to watch and take notes and comment on it. Well, life had other plans, and we can all see that didn't happen. To be honest, I haven't had the best year. I am not going into any details because I don't want to bore or bum anyone out, but just know Big D, Gene, the occasional third host, as well as listener emails and voicemail have been a welcome distraction. For that, I am eternally grateful. I was introduced to Shat via their Shat on TV with Westworld. Listeners, if you haven't watched Westworld, do it and listen to each episode the Shat crew did as well. There's so much insight and deep diving that the crew did. It made the show even better. Even wrote in asking how and why you all hadn't done The Princess Bride yet. It might have been Gene or Roger that verbally chastised me for not looking over the list of previously done movies. Fast forward a few years, and I realized Superman 2 had yet to be reviewed by the Shat crew. Superman has and always will be my favorite superhero for a multitude of reasons. I'm extremely excited for the new James Gunn movie this July, and I'm even going to be able to meet all the living actors that have portrayed Superman at Denver Fan Expo this year. Bought my ticket and picture passes yesterday. I do remember trying to sit down to watch this 3 nights in a row and falling asleep each time. Don't know if that's just because of how many times I watched this as a kid or the fact that I was trying to watch it after 8 to 10-hour work days. Clearly, this movie didn't hold my attention like it did the first time I saw it as a child. I also can't remember for certain, but I think I saw Superman 2 before the first one. I do remember it made me believe a man could fly. Christopher Reeve, in my humble opinion, portrayed the best adult version of Clark Kent. Teen and young adult Clark go to Tom Welling from Smallville. Reeve portrayed the humble, introverted, quiet, and even slightly nerdy pushover guy, but still not afraid to speak truth to power. Margot Kidder laid the groundwork for who Lois Lane's character is. The tough, no-nonsense reporter who still manages to get herself into trouble that she can't get out of without the help of Superman. R.I.P. to Gene Hackman. He was an outstanding actor, but not my favorite Lex. I felt his portrayal was a bit too goofy and comical. Now, according to my notes app on my phone, I did sit down and try to watch and take notes on Superman 2 back in January. This is what I got. How and why did Gene Hackman get top billing?
Because I think he was a more established actor.
The only person I could see giving Gene Hackman a run for his money on that top billing was Terrence Stamp, and I just don't think he had the pull.
No, but I think if you like Gene Hackman, he started acting in the early 60s. So he was coming off of The French Connection in 71. He was the Poseidon Adventure. He was a legitimate actor. And Christopher Reeves was the new young hot guy. So you had to. Back in that day, you would give it to the older actor, but it was a very different movie going back. We didn't even talk about the fact that Superman was cool to let Lois Lane almost go over the falls and die just to maintain hiding his identity. And then the uncut version where we get Lois Lane pulling a revolver on Clark Kent. We talked about like the director's cut in this version. There's a lot of weird films floating around.
Speaking of stuff we talked about, we also did, Chris, talk about little Kal-El's penis, that the special effects were rough. Chris also brings up flying through space. Why is Superman's cape flapping? We did not talk about that, but Big D was very taken aback by my assertion that I knew that a hydrogen bomb could blow up in space.
I was surprised.
I'm a smart guy.
Yeah, but there may be some scientific reason why maybe he just does it. There's some kind of superpower he has that, like, we don't know the method of his propulsion, right? It could be some ion field that comes out of his ass. Who knows? We don't know what makes him fly, but maybe that also causes the cape to flap.
You probably already know this, Big D, but Superman originally could not fly. He just jumped very far.
That's terrible.
And in keeping with that lore, imagine Superman jumped and his cape was set into motion as he was going through the atmosphere. Would it not continue to move as he went into space?
That's a terrible superpower. That's like the Hulk. Like, why would you not take the next logical step? If you're going to make a superhero, flying would have been the one logical thing you would have thought of. Right,
but it wouldn't make sense because Superman, okay, we're not talking about Superman who could kiss people and remove their memory and shit. We're talking about like OG Superman, right? The idea was he was just very, 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 very strong. He's the Man of Steel, right? It's the strength of his legs, them getaway sticks, that he would be able to propel himself very far. That's why they said able to leap buildings in a single bound, faster than a speeding bullet.
I don't buy it. At least now, thankfully, whenever he does take off, they focus on the ground and the actual impact of whatever the force he uses to take off or jump is, where you see it affect the ground. I don't want to picture that. I picture the Hulk in that terrible, like Ed Norton version or whatever it was, Eric Bana, where he would like jump across the desert. That shit was terrible.
Getting back to Chris's letter, he says, so obviously this movie isn't what I remembered, but that is true with a lot of movies from our childhood, or you all wouldn't have this podcast. I feel like a younger me would have given this one wipe. The adult me gives it 2.75. And that's about where I predict this will come in. I look forward to hearing your reviews and takes. Keep up the great work. And Gene, you might want to think about banking up some episodes for when the little one arrives. Not a bad idea. Cheers, Chris in Denver.
If I can give you one tip, additionally, Gene, as a father, you're a sensitive husband. Your love for Sarah can be felt. You will feel an obligation to stay awake with her, at her side in the beginning. That is the wrong move. When she is up, you go to sleep. When you are up, she goes to sleep. Take shifts. Don't try to, I'm going to be by her side, because in the end, that will fuck you both up. Go in shifts.
No, she gave me a talk today. She said, baby stomach, like when they first come out, it's like the size of a marble. And she said, so it's going to eat, and then it's going to probably overeat. And I don't know, I keep saying it, she. And then she'll kind of maybe spit some of that up, with the burping and such. And that's about all the food she's going to take. And then she's going to probably need her diaper change or whatever. She's going to go to bed. Then she's going to get up and want to do it all over again. And understanding that was probably the most effective way to explain to me what a baby is originally, which is like, it's a stomach the size of a marble. That thing just needs to be filled up and then emptied and then filled up. So, I totally 100% will do that. And we got a rolling bassinet, so it'll just roll to either side of the bed, depending on who's on duty. So, I think it'll work out great. Keep the advice coming, guys.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see this. Gene is so calm and cool and collective. Then at work, he's throwing shit against the whiteboard. I don't know what we're going to get, people, but it's going to be fun to see.
if the dogs are any indication, and I don't know they are. I don't know if your relationship to animals is the same as your relationship to Emma, but if the dogs are any indication, I'm definitely the softie of the parenting group. Like I am. I wouldn't call myself a pushover, but I am a very caring and understanding dog parent, at least. Probably jinxing myself.
It's going to be wonderful, folks. It's going to be wonderful for us all.
Can't wait. I folded a little sweater today.
Oh.
And I just had a little daydream. It was so awesome. All right, getting back to the podcast. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week is a Gene Lyons wet dream. Director John Waters serves up a campy rockabilly musical satire that lovingly mocks the 1950s teen rebel genre. Johnny Depp stars as Wade Walker, a leather-jacketed bad boy with a soft heart and a single tear that melts the hearts of every draped girl in town. Set in a fictional Baltimore town, the film pits crybaby gang of juvenile delinquents against a clean-cut, uptight squares in a battle of class style and forbidden love. Commissioned again by Sidney Kay. Came out in 1990. And Gene, I know you've probably seen this about 50, 60 times. I have never seen this film.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this. You're going to love it. You're going to fucking love it.
I with Nell and I love that film, and I would never have expected, so I'm open to anything.
Where are you on Johnny Depp right now? Like,
I like him.
Okay, you'll love this.
Yeah. I think he's a weird, eccentric dude, and I do. I like him. So hopefully this stays in line with your other films you've recommended.
Have you watched any other John Waters?
What was the one with Divine where she eats poop?
Pink Flamingos.
Yes, Pink Flamingos I've seen back in the day.
This is much more accessible than Pink Flamingos.
Thankfully, I would hope so.
Thank you, Sydney, for commissioning our upcoming film, and thank you, Sydney, for commissioning High Spirits. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. You should follow us on social media, share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com, or go to chatpod.com and use the SpeakPipe feature to leave us a voicemail. Also, to everyone who joined us for the diaper party, thank you so much for your generous contributions and spending some time with us on the stream. Probably won't be doing any gaming streams anytime soon, but Big D, I think maybe some live streams in the works would be a good idea this summer. You can support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever a fine podcast can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
It's a place where the pleasures are simple.
You want to ride home with Dad? We can count out-of-state license plates.
Kids help their parents.
He not only vacuums, he does windows.
And squares get the girls.
We'll get married and live in suburbia.
Then came Crybaby Walker.
Yeah, you're looking to rumble. You're looking at me because I'm the king. I'm the king. I'm the king. King Crybaby with a tear in my eye.
I'm so tired of being good.
This is the king you're gonna cry. Baby cry, baby cry, baby cry, baby cry.
Good girls want him bad.
Hi.
Bad girls want him worse.
Look, Crybaby, you scorched me, man.
You're a dead man, Walker. I'm a lonely king who needs a queen.
Come on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you're the sweetest hunk of sugar that I've ever seen.
The only place you're going to sing is in jail.
Never had your love.
I have told you, the young lady does not like to be poor.
Just touch me for 1 second before I explode.
He's not just antisocial.
Get on!
He was born to be bad.
Just one night of happiness, that's all I ask.
Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby, cry. Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby, cry. Cry, baby, cry, baby, cry, baby, cry.
A film by John Waters.
You've made me the happiest juvenile delinquent in Baltimore.
Oh, what am I doing here? There's ghosts in here. Oh, what's the deal with ghosts in haunted mansions?